Time for the breakdown of today's big game, Championship Saturday. It is Southern versus Jackson State SWAC Championship. Both rivals know each other very well, and nobody better to have a conversation with about today's game than my man Jim, Kleinpeter and Kevin Batiste. Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Kevin.
Howdy, Barry.
Kevin, you
Good
there?
morning, Barry. I'm here. Good morning.
All right, fellas, let's break it down, and I want to start. I start on the offensive side of the ball with you, Jim. Looking at this team going through the quarterback situation, right? Noah Biden, Xavier Tissett, as well as now Jalen Woods, who started the last two games. You've seen, and you and I have talked about this offensive line rotating guys in and out, and then you've seen the emergence of Kobe Dillon, C.J. Russell, and as well as Kendrick Grimes. And even how about Chandler Whitfield going over 100 passing receiving yards and the Bayou Classic and winning the MVP. Looking at this offense, Jim, your thoughts headed into today's ball game compared to what they were in the first meeting against Jackson State, where this offense put up 416 yards of total offense, 387 in the air, and only 29 on the ground.
Yeah, well, it's a different offense run by a different quarterback who didn't play in that game with three different offensive linemen up front, and probably a scale-back offense that what they were trying to do earlier in the season. I think once they went with Jalen Woods, I think they're just and they're running because they're running the ball better. You're looking at a team that is not going to take as many chances, and really, I think that would be a mistake. I think this offense in this game needs to take some chances. It needs to do some things it hasn't done in the last three games. When it has an opportunity to throw something at Jackson State it hasn't seen on film.
And it seems like since Jalen Woods has been inserted in as quarterback, we've seen the more explosive plays by the offense. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that there's been a few there, but I think they're trying to hold back on that. I think he's gotten a little more comfortable, and I think they're going to continue. I saw him being a little more conservative than I expected him to be in the Bayou Classic. But that's what I'm saying. I think they maybe need to open it up a little bit this week.
Kevin, I look over at the defensive side of the ball for Southern against Jackson State in that first meeting. Jackson State, 399 total yards of offense, 198 yards in the air, 201 on the ground. It was Irv Mulligans, who is the SWAC Offensive Player of the Year, his first game back coming off an injury, and Southern held him 13 carries to 51 yards and a touchdown. Jacoby and Morgan, 12 of 21 for 153 yards and a passing touchdown. And then you're looking for Tillion, 3 receptions and 60 yards. That Jackson State's offense was finding ways to pick Southern's defense apart here and there, by being able to catch Southern in bad situations. Your thoughts on Southern's defense, Kevin?
Yeah, that first game, as you said, Jackson State was basically just having their way with Southern defense. They was just doing everything, running down the middle, running to the outside and the boundary, and then hitting with the RPOs to the tight end. And but I think since then, Southern's defense has become a lot more disciplined. They've been leading the way for this team a lot. Especially in some of those games like Bethune-Cookman and Texas Southern, when the offense couldn't get anything going. The defense has been holding things together until that one play finally happens. And they are positioned nicely going into this game, but it starts with stopping that man Irv Mulligan. And you mentioned his name in the first contest this year. I want to say that was his first game of the season, because I think he missed Jackson State's first two games with injuries, so he didn't really get many carries in that game. But he's a well-oiled machine. He's ready to go. And if Southern wants to have success, it starts with stopping Irv Mulligan, and then you got Travis Terrell, the freshman, who can also kill you in the return game. So yeah, Southern's going to have to stop that run game and also force some turnovers.
Let's look at on the defensive side of the ball. You're talking about Kelvin Givens, the co-defensive player of the year. They picked him preseason in terms of defensive player of the year. He's pretty much lived up to it. Slow start in the beginning of the year, though. He started out slow, but now looking at him pretty much emerge, you see him damn near on every play. Your thoughts on how this defense has just gotten better, and with the emergence of Kelvin Givens, Kevin, just really stepping up?
Yeah, man, Kelvin Givens has been like a heat-seeking missile. In the Bayou Classic especially, it seemed like every play, as I was looking through my lens, he was always get to the quarterback, then get up and do that little no, the Kimbe Mutombo celebration like he always does. So, he's really back to his natural self. The SWAC defensive player, it was a well-deserved honor for him. Coach Which he mentioned on Tuesday. He didn't like how people was doubting him, saying he shouldn't have won Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know what those people were thinking. But, yeah, Kelby has really gotten into a group. And then, Vincent Page, he's come along with that linebacker spot, and he didn't even play in that first game against Jackson State. And, honestly, Perry, I'm still trying to figure out how the number one team in the West, one of the top defenses in the West, only had one person to make the All-SWAC team from that defense. I'm still trying to believe that. I thought at least Vincent Page, Herman Bristol III, Horatio Johnson, one of those guys is at least worthy of a second-team All-SWAC honor. But, I mean, it's whatever at this point, as they told us on Tuesday. But, yeah, the defense that finally comes along, and a lot of guys are stepping up.
Jim, I'm going to come to you with that because that question he just asked saying, seems like Southern was snubbed. Your thoughts on that, not seeing more Jaguars on that All-SWAC selection?
Yeah, that was a definite snub. And I think Alabama A&M had 6 players on the team, and they finished 6-6. So I know how these all conference teams go, how the voting is sometimes. You start looking at the guys' stats, but you also have to consider the team that they play for, and Southern's defense was the linchpin unit on this team on a SWAC West champion, and you got to take that into consideration when you're voting on this stuff. But people just look at the numbers sometimes, and a lot of bad defenses have a lot of good numbers because they spend their whole game tackling people, and that's you got to look at that. So yeah, it's really unfair and unfortunate that it happened that way. But I don't think any Southern player would trade an all-conference berth for playing in the championship game at all.
Jim, let me ask you this. As we look at the tail of the tape, today's matchup between two of perhaps the top defenses in this conference. Now, Jackson State's offense seems to be a little bit more advanced as well as their special teams. But looking at this, we were all at the press conference, and I kept hearing that underdog word used around at the press conference this week. But for you looking at this matchup, what do you see today with Southern and Jackson? Not of what we saw before, but as of today.
That's for me.
Yeah.
Well, I see a better performance by Southern. I don't know if they can beat Jackson. Jackson had a week off, and sometimes having a week off takes a little bit of the edge off your team. And but I don't see that happening with this Jackson State team. I see a better game. I don't see them getting ahead 23-0. But I don't know if Southern can win this game. Jackson's pretty good. They're tight just about everywhere. They got their kickoff return guy is really, really good, and that's something that Southern's special teams kind of been a disaster this year.
Kevin, I throw it over to you. Of course, here I am using that word underdog that we heard all on Tuesday. But for you, looking at today's matchup, looking at the matchups across the field, what's your thoughts on Jackson and Southern?
I see two battle-tested teams, but battle-tested in different ways. And what I mean by that is Jackson, in the games they've won on this 8-game win streak, they've really dominated people, or when they play good teams like a Florida A&M or an Alabama State. They've really made the play when it mattered most. Southern, they've gotten those plays, but it's been in some interesting ways. I always go back to the Texas Southern game. Texas Southern had that game won, but the punter, the Bethune-Cookman game, it went into 5 overtimes, but it was a 3-0 contest going into the fourth quarter. And a team like Bethune-Cookman, who's really bad, there's no way that game should have been that close. So and then I think Jackson State, they're coming in, with on a mission. They've been going through a lot, with the whole film allegations and everything. There's the whole thing with T.C. Taylor. People been saying how they would never be able to replicate what Deion Sanders was doing. So it's going to be a very fiery atmosphere. And I'm kind of like Jim. It's going to be a real tough task for Southern, and it's going to be very hard for them to get the job done.
looking forward to the big game today. Winner punches the ticket into the Celebration Bowl next week over in Atlanta, the SWAC Championship. Two rivals, Jackson and Southern, know each other very well and do not like each other. So I'll be interested. I hope this thing does not get chippy at the end, fellas, as well. I hope whoever loses, just go to this locker room. Do not go midfield. I'll be nervous to that because you don't want to head into next week with any suspensions. But for that, hey, man, want to thank you guys for coming on. Thank you, Kevin. Jim, man, appreciate you guys for coming on this morning, man, and being able to have that conversation. Kevin, man, let the people know where they can find you.
At K Batiste Jr. on Twitter/X and on Instagram, and also on WAFB Channel 9.
All right, Kevin, appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen. That sounds like a tough hill to climb for Southern University today, and I know you guys are all in the comment section. I know the Jackson State folks in here today. They always find a way to sneak over here in here, but